And, well, thank you. Nice to see you all here. Oh, I can maybe put down this. So we will have one breakout group that's not here. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for staying around. Really happy to have you here. We will start with a very short introduction and background, and just to present the context of what we are doing today. And then we will start working in breakout groups here in the room. So, but just for, especially maybe, well, people here might or might not know what EOSC is, but also for our online audience, just as background, EOSC is this huge European undertaking to create these interoperable research infrastructures for European science, and the FAIR principles are at the heart of this. So this is the background. I myself come from the project FAIR Impact, which is one of the many projects that are participating in this project. So the FAIR Impact project is a coordination and support action, and we are started this summer, and it's quite we have many partners. And our aim is now then to realize a FAIR EOSC by supporting the implementation of FAIR enabling practices across scientific communities and research outputs at the European, national and institutional level. So we are in FAIR Impact working with many use cases, integrated use cases. We are trying to identify FAIR implementations and help the implementation of these as sharing good practice knowledge and solutions to support FAIR. And here you can see the many parties and partners that are involved in the project. We are working with three pillar themes: the persistent identifiers, metadata and ontology, and then metrics, certification and guidelines. And then we have two cross-cutting themes: interoperability, and then we have the work package 2, which is working with engagement, adoption and implementation. So for instance, I recommend, if you haven't visited our website, please do. You will find information about the FAIR implementation framework, where you can contribute if you have any good ideas, solutions, tools, and there will also be open calls announced for this kinds of work. But if you look at the work persistent identifiers work package, one of our main tasks, a very clear task, is setting up a coordination mechanism for PID service providers to help them align services with the EOSC PID policy. So, and this work is now starting here. So we hope that we can today discuss the EOSC PID policy and the values of PIDs, what they mean and how we can implement the policy, and especially with regard to the PID service providers. But Helena will tell you more about that. Here is the context of the PID, or this task 3.1, which then is led by DataSite. But we also are working with PID policy alignment, and then also with the use cases. So we of course are very aware of that there are many previous projects and the collaborations, and we are trying to build on those. We know there are very many different services, and different discussions in different places about PIDs and how they should be used and what they are and how they should be managed. So we want to be inclusive and try to find like shared language and a common shared understanding about which PIDs to use that are suitable for which kind of use cases and how we can talk about PIDs and their management together. So, but I think we will go now forward to the practicalities, and Helena will present this.
Well, hi everyone in the room and hi everyone online. Really great that we're able to have this combination of an in-person workshop with also an online workshop. So I hope that will work really well and that we'll get lots of good input today. So yeah, I'm Helena. I'm DataCite's Director of Community Engagement. As Jessica said, DataCite leads this task 3.1. It's actually my colleague Gabby who leads it, but unfortunately she wasn't able to be here today, so that's why I'm here now to have this conversation and discussion with you about a value proposition for PIDs in EOSC. So within task 3.1, there are 4 different steps that we're looking to take. In the end, the main thing we're looking to do within this task is develop a shared long-term vision for PID service providers in EOSC. So at the end of the project, that's where we want to be with this task. And so today we're trying to take the first step, which is we want to work on a joint value proposition by relevant PID providers for EOSC. And so we have a couple of exercises that we want to do with you today to think about that. And that is really meant as a first building block for the 2 milestones that we'll have next year, which is developing an EOSC PID providers coordination mechanism, and then after that, aligning requirements for onboarding PID providers into EOSC, including emerging PIDs. So those are all things that we'll be working on over the next couple of years, obviously in close collaboration with the PID policy group, also with Faircore for EOSC, because there are a lot of relevant activities happening at the same time. But I think what is maybe a bit different about what we're trying to do within this task specifically is really bring the PID providers together to ensure that the things that we're thinking about and working on also reflect reality and will work in practice. So, as I said, there are a couple of exercises that we want to do today. So for the people online, there's a Miro board with these exercises. For the people in the room, we've set up flip charts where you can see the exercises. And so the first thing we'll do is we want to look at the roles as defined in the EOSC PID policy and see if we can map how these apply to existing PID systems and providers. Then the second thing we want to look at is some of the pain points that different stakeholder groups might be experiencing, and then what are the benefits of PIDs, how can PIDs help address these, solve these. And then the last thing we'll be talking about is the value of PIDs for the research ecosystem, and then of course specifically also in the context of EOSC and European research and research organizations. So I guess maybe the first exercise needs a little bit more explanation. So within the PID policy, there are different roles that have been defined. And these are PID authority, PID service provider, PID manager, PID owner, and PID user. And you'll see those on the flip charts and also on the Miro board. And I see that in the room, Jessica's already handing around some cheat sheets for people that haven't memorized it yet, so they can check what it is we're actually talking about. And so you'll find the definitions on the boards, but to maybe give you an example before you start on that exercise. So this is pretty much what it would look like for DataCite. So in the case of DataCite, you could say the DOI Foundation, who I think is also on the line, is the PID authority. Then DataCite functions as the PID service provider. The member organizations that are members of DataCite for DOI registration, they can be seen as the PID managers. Then maybe the most interesting one in a way in terms of up for discussion is that I would say you could see the repositories as the PID owners and then the researchers as the PID users. And so this is exactly what we want to discuss and map out during this first exercise. And we don't have a set list of providers for the people in the room. So whichever PID service provider or PID provider you think we should be considering, you can add those to the boards we have in the room so that we can start thinking about how the PID policy maps to them. And if you have questions about that, there will be a facilitator for every group who can talk you through it. And so if you're wondering what happens next, so there are several task participants in task 3.1 that are involved in this workshop today. So they will start drafting a value proposition document for this first milestone in task 3.1. And we can share that with all interested participants for further contributions. I also think we may follow up with some of you anyway later this year to get more input depending on where we go with the discussion today. And then within this task, we're also planning to have a second workshop probably next year to start working on those second and third milestones that are related to PID provider participation in the European Open Science Cloud. As I said, it's really my colleague leading this task. So if you have questions afterwards or want to get involved or would like to have a separate call to talk through some of those things, please feel free to reach out to her. And yeah, with that, I think we want to get started. So I think for the people online, we will mute now and we will let you get started. Simon and Paul are there to facilitate your session and do the exercises with you. We can't really hear you, so if there are questions, maybe best to put them in chat and then we'll check now and then what's happening. And then I think within this room, Jessica, do you want to start creating the groups and then we'll move everyone over to the boards? Okay, I'll stop sharing now.
Three groups is...
Yeah, three
okay.
groups.
My idea was that if we could make a count to 3. You know this system? You say aloud like 1, well.
Thanks everyone so much for participating in these breakout sessions. I realized that I'm sort of the last thing standing between you and your flight or train home. So I promise we will not take 30 minutes to wrap this up. We'll keep it quite short so you can all leave in time. So what we wanted to do is we briefly wanted to report back what was discussed in the different groups. We won't go through everything. I think we'll really just focus on briefly talking about the value propositions that the different groups came up with. And then we'll take home all these different sheets of paper we have now with all the post-its to further analyze that. So does group 1 maybe want to start with a quick summary and the value proposition? I don't know who from group 1, and I'm saying this is group 1. Who from group 1 can briefly report back? Jointly is allowed as well. Whoever wants to come up to the stage can do it. Okay, I see a volunteer. Good job.
So I missed the introductory part of the session. I have no voice, but happy to report back about the session. What we discussed, so we went into the 3 questions in details, and we were happy to identify some use cases first, just to understand what the current issues with current practices are and how to address these kind of issues, what could be the possible solutions and what could be the possible benefits. What we identified that kind of much better data management practices could be achieved by the various usages of PIDs, and regarding the issues, we addressed all the, and I wouldn't say all, but many of the institutions of the participations of sessions or small groups and the use cases. I don't know whether someone would like to add some specific issues we discussed under problems and under benefits. If not, then I would jump to the second question, which was...
I think, first the roles, then the...
And that would jump to the third question, which is a value proposition. I cannot see what we came up with, but it is overall a much better, fair world, what we could achieve with the usage of the PIDs, and much better data management, overall data management practices, which would be very helpful for all of the involved parties.
Okay, thanks.
Any addition from the group?
Okay, then I think, thank you. Let's go to group 2. In group 2, we were over there at the back. I think when it came to the roles, we looked at 3 different infrastructures to see how we could map the roles. I think what we found is that sometimes there are some examples that sort of sit in between categories a little bit, but I think that's also maybe not that surprising. I think the PID owner category was actually the most difficult to interpret, and so that's maybe the thing that needs a bit more thinking in this context. I think also because of the term owner, which has a lot of implications. I think what we discussed around the pain points and benefits is really also reflected in the value proposition that we came up with. I don't think you can read it, even though I brought it up with me on the screen, so I'll read it out to you. I actually wanted 10 points, but my group insisted we'd be much cooler if we had 9. So here we go, we have 9. So we have measuring impact. Connectivity, it's a critical component of FAIR. It leads to lower administrative burden. It increases trust in research, stability of research infrastructures, research integrity, should be minimally invasive, and of course, unique identification. So those were the 9 things we now have to add to the value proposition. And I guess, Ingrid, you're last with your group. Okay, I guess you can also hear me without the microphone, but now that I'm here anyway. So I think that was it. As I said at the start, I will take all these sheets of paper home with me. I hope the Post-its will still be in the right place by the time I get off the train. I will also take some photos just in case. The group working on task 3.1 will analyze this. If you're interested in having further discussions or participating in anything, feel free to tell me after the session or reach out to my colleague or to me. We're always happy to hear from you. I know many of you are involved in related activities, so I'm sure there will be more discussion. And thanks so much for staying on for this last session of the EOSC Symposium. I hope you all have a good trip home, and thank you for your contributions.